Good evening, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bump Draft and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa, and with me I have my very good friend and former racing driver, Mr. Earl Goddard. Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
A bit of a delay there. I'm fine.
There was a delay. We're all good.
Yeah, we're all good. So today we have a very special thing to talk about, which is the Sochi. Oh no! We don't have the Sochi GP. I don't know why. I don't know.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that stuff. No, we don't have that. And so instead of doing the Sochi GP. That we don't have, we're going to talk a little bit about the WEC and IndyCar. So let's start with that. So WEC, last week we had the race, the Fuji 6 hours. It was supposed It was actually supposed to be here in Portugal at Portimão, but I don't know. Actually, I don't know why, but they put it into Fuji at the last minute. I think it was like in July or something like that. And they put it to Fuji, and yeah, that's where we went. Fuji, it's actually a great track. I actually like it a lot. I just don't like one chicane. I think it ruins the flow of the track. That chicane, that's
just
really,
the one.
Yeah, that's really tight one. Yeah, it screws a little bit with the flow of the track. I don't know what you think about that, but for me at least, it screws a little bit because it's always.
I don't have much experience with Fuji, so we'll defer to you on this one.
And actually, it had a very nice original layout. It was different. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but it had actually a banked corner, almost like NASCAR at T1 before, and you can actually see it a little bit on the first corner. So it just went forwards. It was like a crazy amount of speed that you carry into that. So a banked corner going downhill. So
nice.
You can imagine that didn't last long.
Health and safety got straight on that.
Yeah, when drivers started to basically die. So actually, the famous race where James Hunt won the championship from Lauda was on that original layout. So you can imagine that corner with those 70s cars in the soaking wet, raining like mad. That T1 must have been terrifying.
Good fun.
Yeah. So we went there. Fuji, it's actually in one of the highest mountains in Japan. We went F1 last winter. It was like 2011, something like that. No, even 20
longer than that.
2008, I think it was, or 2007 was the last time. That famous race where Mark Webber vomited inside his helmet because he had a piece of bad sushi. And we normally have, like, the weather there is not very good. Sometimes there's actually snow and all that stuff. But for this weekend, we have sun all of the weekend. And it's a race that's not full of entertainment, to be honest. In the hypercar class, it was like basically the two Toyotas, now that they don't have to worry about BOPs and all that stuff, for Le Mans are stretching their legs a little bit.
See you later.
It was basic see you later.
Off they went, yeah.
Off they went. The only thing a little bit interesting there was the number 8 car was actually faster than number 7, and for some reason Toyota felt the need to give team orders and for the number 8 to pass the number 7 because they were faster. I don't really get that. I'm not one of those team orders haters, but when you're that faster than the other teams, it doesn't seem that nice.
Apparently, it's a rule within Toyota that they have where if the other car says they claims to be quicker, they let them pass, and they've got 2 laps to prove it and actually pull away, or they swap them back again. It's just a thing they do. Is it right? Don't know, but at the end of the day, they're not looking at whether it's right. They're looking at the safest way to get both cars across the line.
Yeah.
And from a managerial point of view, okay, number 8, you've got 2 laps. No, you're not quicker. Right, go back.
Yeah. I would be more on board with that if they were actually fighting with another car on track, and from the beginning of the weekend everyone saw that Alpine wasn't able to fight with them. So yeah, this occasion I don't really see it, to be honest.
Well, they're just following their own strategy. There might as well not be anyone on the race track with them, so they're just doing their own thing, and they felt it was necessary. So
so from this we get that Alpine got third. The Glickenhaus was not there. They didn't go to Fuji, probably money reasons, I don't know why. But in third place we had the Alpine. Yeah, they really need to start taking this seriously, don't they? Because they are running a car that they didn't build. And they're running one car, and they actually have plans for the future in terms of continuing it, because Alonso was supposed to go there in 2 years. So I don't know. It seems that they are doing it for the sake of doing it, and I don't see how much sense this makes for Alpine. It's basically a Renault company. I don't know. I'm not seeing what they get from it.
It's just strange. I mean, quali pace, they're only 2/10 off, so they're there in 1 lap pace. They just obviously, when it comes to the race, they're nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems just a bit of a mess. I guess that they are taking what they can from the races that Toyota is not going flat out to win because of BOP or whatever it is, of mechanical things or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't really see much point on them.
It's a strange one.
Yeah, it's a very strange one for me. And the other 2 cars were both of the Peugeots. Yeah, it's basically test sessions for them. They are not there to win these races. They are checking up with the car. They actually had gearbox problems, I think. The 94 car had the problem, and then the 93 car had it. But because they already solved the problem in the 94, they were able to do it much quicker on the 93. Yeah, it's basically I actually, with this design, I don't know how many races they are expecting to win. I think they are aiming basically for Le Mans. I don't know what's your opinion on that, but
yeah, this is all just putting mileage on, getting the routines in order, and yeah, they're clearly focused on the big race, because if your car's quick enough for Le Mans, it will be quick everywhere else.
Do you think that?
Within reason. Yeah.
Within reason, yeah.
Because, you've got to have a good car to win Le Mans.
Yeah.
And a good car is going to be good everywhere.
But don't you think that they're not running a rear wing is going to be a disadvantage on other tracks for just balance of, if not downforce, pure downforce, just balance purposes? I'm almost saying purposing, because they actually had major problems with it this weekend. Surprise, surprise, a car that gets all of his back downforce from diffuser.
Exactly, yeah. To be fair, the ground effects can be even more powerful, as proven, than a wing. Whether they'll get enough on short courses, I don't know. I'm not an aerodynamicist. You would, layman's terms, you'd have to say no.
Yeah.
But the guys who designed these cars know a lot more than we do, and they still did it. So there must be something there.
Yeah.
Other than just marketing.
Yeah, ground effects actually creates less drag. I actually saw a video on YouTube. I don't remember who made it. If I find it, I will share it. But actually, the WEC is a little bit different from other series in that you have certain downforce parameters that you have to be within. So you can't create more downforce than a certain amount of points. So that's a way to balance all of the cars, so that big manufacturers don't just spend a huge amount of money getting downforce for the cars. Of course, that doesn't take into account drag. That fall mile is very important to get the top speed. So and actually I think that's one of the reasons that they have been able to be thereabouts in terms of pace for a completely new car compared to the Toyota that it's been dominating for 5 years on the WEC. Almost 5 years now, yeah, because Porsche left in 2017.
Yeah, they were both within a second, so 7/10 and 9/10 respectively off the pole. So on one lap pace, they're not far away.
Yeah,
for a brand new car.
Yeah, and even with the problems, they got 7th in the overall, standings. So just behind, in the same lap as the top 3 LMP2s. So it's not a huge amount for a 6-hour race, being 6 laps behind the leaders when they had to. I don't know if it was changing the gearbox. I don't know the details of that. So of course it's going to be kept really close, that information, because they don't really want people to know what they're doing. Teams normally don't want that, so we don't really know. But for a team that did that, yeah, I think it was like a good test session, to be honest.
Yeah, I think most of their races are just a test session now, aren't they?
Yeah,
just building and building data.
It's the nature of the game. You have to have data to do everything,
which is why the likes of your Audis, your Porsche, Toyota all do well. They just got years and years and just huge amounts of data to just trawl through when they're building cars, and then once they've got a car running, they say 4 or 5 years worth of data. They know everything to get the maximum out of the car.
Actually, I don't know how much this is happening in the WEC, but in Formula One it's crazy. For example, Max, in the Seb Vettel days, in the Vettel days of the Red Bull, and they do this now, but actually Sebastian Vettel many times credited Felix Acosta, he is on the WEC, for the work he has done in Milton Keynes, because he used to go and find solutions in the simulator there, and this is 10 years ago. So even then they were already setting up the car in the simulator. So 10 years ago now, it must be a hell of a simulator there, because they actually do their own simulation, tire simulation and all that stuff. So they are actually setting up the car away from the track, and then they test all of that, and then they try it in the car. So yeah, and that's all data. So yeah. Then in the LMP2 category, I think it was the most interesting race of all categories, because it was the closest one. actually we had until the last stint, we had a fight from WRT and Jota, the 38 Jota, because they were in slightly different strategies. I think the WRT were saving a lot of fuel, and Jota was just going for it. And until the last WRT stop, they didn't know if they were going to get close or not in the end to fight. But yeah, in the end, WRT was able to do a nice pit stop and save and not lose enough time while they were stopping to get the race win. And we had actually Prema finishing third, but they were looking on finishing third, but then they had to do a splash and dash in the end. So that got the second Jota car up. That was actually, I don't know if you saw the crash on lap 1 or lap 2. I think it was lap 2 actually. Exactly.
Oh yeah, we got it speared into.
Yeah, speared into the chicane that I hate. It was a major crash. So they did an amazing.
He went full iRacing.
Yeah, full iRacing on that.
Sideways send it.
Yeah, so they did a good race to go into fourth, and then with the extra pit stop of Prema, they were able to get third. And then LM, yeah, it's LM, but it's basically GTE Pro. We had it was looking to be a fight between IF Corse and Porsche, but actually the Porsche was not fast enough in a straight line, and they had some tire problems. They were struggling with tire degradation, so it was one of those that just the Ferraris were just so good.
They had some good battles though.
Yeah, in the beginning of the race, yeah.
Yeah, they had a good bit of back and forth, especially into T1.
Yeah. But then the 92 car, I think, got a penalty. And I think it was over basically then. So we've been spoiled a little bit this year in the GT Pro category. All year we have had nice racing, especially between Ferraris and the Porsches. The Corvettes were, like I said with Peugeot, they only gunned for Le Mans, and they were actually going into a 1-2 at Le Mans, but then one of the car had problems, and then the leading car had a crash with an LMP2 AM.
The incident.
Yeah, that's horrible incident. Scary incident. So yeah, it was a good couple of fights in the beginning, but then the Ferraris just went away and came home with first and second, with the 92 Porsche coming in third, and then the other Porsche, and then Corvette didn't have pace for them, to be honest. And they were actually one lap behind. The last Corvette was one lap behind. So yeah. Then we come to the GT AM. And after that scary crash in Monza that the TF Sport car had in Monza, that it hit one of those sausages curves and then flipped around.
Hell of a shunt.
Yeah, hell of a shunt and it was actually my compatriot Henrique Chaves that had that crash. And they were actually running a Lens car. It was lent by them for, I don't know who basically gave them the car to race. They had to paint the car at the last times because the real car wasn't prepared. It had much damage, and these cars at the back in the GT AM these teams don't have the money that the pro teams have. So that must be taken into account as well. So
Yeah.
it was extra impressive that they were so competitive and dominant this race in a car that wasn't theirs. And after that her scary crash, they came in first place in the GTAM, and second place you have the best named team on the grid, the Iron Dames. It's actually been a good year for female drivers in the WEC.
Yeah, no, they did very well.
They're doing very well. So it's a
Very well.
all women team. They actually came second. Wehel Frey, Michelle Gating, Sarah Bovey. It was their best result at WEC. And after our first pole by a female driver in a LMP2 at Monza, it was nice to see. They're actually doing very well. And the female car in the LMP2s have been driving real well as well. So it's been nice to see that part of racing coming alive. We want more female drivers.
Definitely, it's been too long that we managed to get to 2022 and still have limited females, less than 10 that you can probably count racing in major sports. So at least we need to let women have the opportunity to prove that they deserve to be there, not just be given a spot. But we need a female in GP2. That's what we need.
Really nice.
And I know
Tatiana is there until the end of the season.
Tatiana's there.
She's not bad, but
she's not bad. But I think, like we've said previously, it would be nice to see Jamie get a go in it. And
I'll be completely honest, and I heard this the other day. Jamie had an opportunity in regional F3. I think it was in the UK or European F3, and she actually didn't do that well, but I feel like she has grown a lot as a driver, and she has been dominating the W Series, completely dominating. And I think it's about time that she is given the opportunity like Tatiana has been getting in Formula 2 and IndyCar, because Tatiana has also ran IndyCar this year. So
but she's never been anything exceptional in IndyCar.
But I think she comes with a little bit of money.
100%.
Well, Jamie doesn't. I feel like Jamie doesn't have that backing behind her.
No, and that's where you'd like to hope that Jamie's got the pace. To make up for the lack of cash.
You actually raced a few races with one of the most, or at least for me, one of the most memorable female drivers, because there was a Discovery program about her and her racing in America. Milka Duno. You shared the track with her. I don't know if you were.
Okay, I want to say we were in the same team.
You were in the same. I saw in the race that you got your podium at Road America. I think she won that race. But
Road Atlanta.
Road Atlanta. Tilma.
No, I remember Milka, but I'm thinking now.
And actually she is from about the same part of the world, and she was backed by a lot of money as well. We need women driving. We need another Danica Patrick, to be honest. I think we need another Danica Patrick.
Sadly, you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. You have to come with a lot of money these days. Whether you're good or not, got to come with the cash to get in the door, so to speak. Even Danica had the cash behind her to get in, and then you have to have those couple of races and actually prove that you've got the pace and you're not just there as a pretty face. Which she did well, I think.
Yeah, but I actually think that that's a problem. When sponsors see female drivers, I think they see more of the that part of the female, like the looks and what they get from supporting
The PR.
the PR of supporting a female driver. And most times the opportunities are so few for female drivers that this is what I feel. I'm not talking, I'm a man and I've never been in motorsports, but what I feel is that they get the ones that get a little bit of support is for the wrong reasons. And I'm not saying that they are not good drivers, but it's because of that and not because of the other part that they most of them must have. Actually, David Coulthard is one of the biggest. I don't know if he's the president of the W Series or something like that, but he actually does that because his story is that his sister, which is older than him, and he to this day says that his sister was a much better driver than he was. She did a little bit of karting, and she then had no interest in motorsports, and maybe that's because we don't have that many role models in motorsports. But yeah, there's no reason why a female driver can't be as good as a male driver. The most physical part of motor racing right now, I think there's a claim to be said that females are a little bit better than us at that, because the G-forces and all that stuff, it's been proven that females are better at that, so there's no reason there. We just need more role models and more women. We need more numbers. Numbers make it it's way easier to find a suitable a good racer when you have a sample of 1,000 racers than it is when you have 10. It's way more difficult. So we need that. We need females in motorsports. And it's actually one of the sports that there's no separation between the genders and all that stuff. So we really need that. So going on. So we had the Iron Dames on second place, and then the station. I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's a D apostrophe station. And they actually completed the podium. They were last on the grid, and they came back to claim a podium. And actually, it was 2 Japanese drivers in the car, and then Charlie Fagg. I don't know who he is, but yeah, going from the back of the grid to P3 must have been a great race. So that's the podiums from the WEC. I don't know if you have something to say. Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that next year we're going to have many more hypercars, and the Peugeot is one of the first cars that is testing. Porsche was supposed to do the Bahrain the last round Bahrain, but they already said that they are not going to do that. I don't know. Do you think that we're going to go back to the days, because the convergence between the cars in IMSA and WEC, do you think we're going to go a little bit to the days where teams test in Daytona to go to Le Mans? Because it seems like there's a possibility there.
It's what they seem to be doing at the moment, isn't the Porsche has been testing at Daytona recently. I think so. I don't see why they wouldn't. End of the day, they've got the money, they'll be out there. And then Sebring, there's also Daytona. If you can run Le Mans and Daytona, you can go for the Triple Crown of sports cars. So I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, and they are sorry, they are actually one of the cars that are going to run both championships, or at least it's supposed to be like that. But yeah, next year is going to be a transition year. for all of the WEC. We'll have a few more cars in the hypercar category. We'll have the Porsches doing the whole season, and Porsche. And the GT Pro is going to be no more next year. We'll just have GT AM, and that's a transition year for the GT3s as well, to go to GT3s. So, yeah. One thing that I don't know if you know this, do they have already any plans for the LMP2 category?
Not that I've heard anything.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah. Because they are going to lose at least Jota and of course, they probably will lose them from the LMP2 class.
But I'm sure they've got plenty of the LMP3 stroke EMS, ELS.
ELMS.
That's the ones. Who'll be willing to step up. So,
yeah,
I think P2 seems to be that well supported throughout that if a space is available, someone will be in it.
Yeah, let's just hope that they don't within commas forget about the category. It's an amazing category, but
it still produces some of the best racing. So
yeah,
I can't see them. I know what you're saying. I say hopefully they don't go all hypercar crazy, but
yeah,
it's going to be natural that it's all going to be about hypercar for a bit.
Yeah, because the year after that we're going to have BMW, we're going to have Ferrari, we're going to have Lamborghini. If they are able to finally find the money, we'll have the Van Hall or the Bikelis. They already have the car. They are doing a road version of the car. They are still on the courts because of the name, because that's a little bit contested. I already said yesterday in the Portuguese podcast that I'm not really interested about that. I've had enough of that in Formula One with the all Lotus contention,
Yeah.
and it's not a pretty matter. Not a very interesting, to be honest. Only if you are a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams, and actually some of them are going to be relying on other teams, not like the official Porsche team. It's not really Porsche, it's Team Penske. For example, the Ferrari car is going to be run by IF Corsa. So, yeah, there's potential to be many customer teams in hypercar. So I'm only afraid that the LMP2 category is going to be a little bit left out, to be honest. But let's wait and see, because those cars must be a little bit more expensive to run than LMP2s. And I'm saying a little bit, a lot more expensive to maintain. Most of them are going to be hybrids, so that alone must put the prices way up. Okay, I think that's enough of WEC. Now let's go to the IndyCar, because we had a race at it was actually Grand Prix of Monterey, which is a fancy way of saying they went to Laguna Seca. A track loved by many of us sim racers. I am a sim racer. You are now a sim racer.
Yes.
And yeah, it's one of those tracks. It's a track that it's amazing to drive. On these cars, I don't feel it's that amazing to race, but it actually produces a little bit of fights in IndyCar, considering that their rules on head-to-head racing on track they are a little bit different from Formula One. I feel like this weekend, last weekend, most of the moves that they pulled out, it would be straight penalties in Formula One because they just ram other cars off the road. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, you get your elbows out in IndyCar, don't they?
Yeah. I know the Americans say rubbing is racing, but in open wheel cars, it just feels a little bit dangerous. Yeah, and into the corkscrew. Man, if they get that wrong, it's a major crash. But yeah,
there's been plenty of people killed there, especially the corkscrew.
Yeah, it just feels that it's a little bit it's strange for me seeing them pull all those moves, and we had some of those this race. Not as crazy as last year's Roman Grosjean move. That was just... I don't know how he got away with that. He just rammed another guy off the road at the corkscrew.
Yeah. It doesn't say a lot for... And then, yeah,
it's a little bit crazy, that, but...
And this is the premier class of open wheel racing in America.
Yeah. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. If the rules were the same in Formula One, every driver on the grid would do the same. Let's be honest.
100%. If you can do a block pass and make contact and not get penalised, you would.
Yeah.
Every day of the week. As soon as you know that if you're going to touch another car or do anything, you're going to get a 5-second penalty or time penalty or a stop go, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Which is why you've got such at times stagnant racing in F1, because you've got to be so 100% on the move. You can't send it. Well, unless you're Max.
But even he has been a little bit more careful this year. Silverstone was the defense that he did against Mick. I think it was a little bit dodgy. But he has been a little bit more careful this year. He's actually racing with maybe a driver.
He's growing up.
He's growing up. The rules are different this year. And the rules are different. Most of the things that he did last year, there were no penalties. But the rules got clarified, and he now doesn't do them because he's actually a very clever racing driver. And much more clever than people give him credit for. But yeah, let's stop talking about Max Verstappen in the IndyCar part of the show. So yeah, we went into the weekend with 5 drivers. Let's say fight for the championship, but it was basically Will Power's championship to lose, because he was 20 points in front of the second and third place guys, which they were Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. They were both with the same points and 20 points behind Will Power. Then we have our own Marcus Ericsson in 4th place and this year's Indy 500 winner with minus 39 points, and Scott McLaughlin he still had mathematical possibility to win, but he was minus 41 points. So yeah, but he actually had 3 wins this year, so not bad.
Yeah, Scott's had a cracking season, and well, I think he's also signed a new deal with Penske, long-term deal for the next few years. So he's got to be a favourite for next year, I would say.
I think so. I'm really impressed with him because he comes from the supercars. V8s, yeah. And actually, we have, for the 5 drivers that were fighting for the IndyCar championship, 2 were Australian and 1 Kiwi, 1 New Zealander. So that's a good stat. And 1 Swedish guy and 1 American. So to all of those saying that Formula One is an international Championship and IndyCar is not. I'm doing, for those of you that are not seeing the video part, I'm doing what's the guy called, the one that just puts his hands to the obvious part. Kiabi or what? I'm not that hip. So
I'm too old to be that hip.
Yeah. So, but let's be honest, it was Will Power's championship to lose. If he did a good, solid race, he was going to win. So I'm not going to explain all of the point system of IndyCar because it's so complicated. It's crazy. You get 1 point for being on pole, then you get if you lead one lap, you gain 1 point, and then if you lead a certain amount of laps, you gain certain amount of points. So it's a little bit crazy. The how the points are distributed. But yes, so we had a race where Will Power started in front. Then Alex Palou, last year's champion, got him and passed him, and just was on a league of his own because he just went away.
He's flying.
He was flying. And yeah, he has to be one of the favorites for next year because he is actually a champion and he finished the season so well that I think he must be thinking very good about his opportunities for next year. And then it was basically a cat and mouse race from Will Power and Josef Newgarden. Both are on Team Penske. And I don't know if you got that message, but basically they told Newgarden to be careful with his teammate, and his answer was, I will be careful if he is careful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those races, but it actually turned out good for him in the part that he was able to finish ahead of Will Power, but it was basically one of those classic mid 2000s race that there were so many stops and they passed. They were on a slightly different strategies.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a head-to-head on track. But yeah, Josef Newgarden, he had a little bit more pace than Will Power, although I don't know how much Will Power just playing it safe, because with so many points ahead, he just had to finish the race in a points place. So for people to get a little bit of a idea how much, Josef Newgarden got 41 points for second and Will Power got 37 points. So it was 4 points difference. So from 21, I think Will Power would have, with the second place of Newgarden, he would have to finish 10th. And I feel that wasn't going to happen this weekend.
Yeah. No, he was.
Yeah. And actually, if you guys go to Roman Grosjean's YouTube channel, he normally does these nice videos, like a recap of his weekend, of the race, and it just shows the pit stops and passes, the battles on track, both being passed and passing other guys. And it just shows you how completely crazy these races are, with all of the different strategies and all of the pit stops that they do, because they do 3 or 4 pit stops. Actually, Newgarden did 4 pit stops and Will Power did 3 pit stops. So there's, in IndyCar, the tires degrade so much faster than in Formula 1 that it just gives you many more different strategies than you can do on the F1 side. So yeah,
and Will Power's quite famous for his fuel saving as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's one of his. It's one of his little party tricks.
yeah, but actually,
Which he was.
New Garden started from 25th and got second, so he actually maybe pace was the way to go.
Good strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't win the championship, so
No.
for that race, pace wasn't an issue.
Yeah, and actually, Will Power he only got one win this season, so it was a very consistent season. Because New Garden got 5 wins this season and he didn't win the championship. And Scott Dixon got 2 wins. Ericsson got 1 win in Indianapolis, but the Indy 500 gives you more points than the other races, so it's almost like Le Mans in the WEC that gives you more points.
Double points sort of thing.
Yeah. And Scott McLaughlin got 3 points. 3 wins this season. So basically every one of the title contenders had more wins or more points for 1 win in the case of Marcus Ericsson. So yeah, it was a mega well put together championship. But he is a old fox that it has a good head on his shoulders.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So he's now a 2-time IndyCar champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he has actually been in IndyCar since 2005. So 15 years, almost 15 years ago. Almost 20 now. Yes. So yeah. The experience here gave him an advantage. So yeah, it was that. I think next year is going to be a good season for me because I don't follow IndyCar that closely. But I think next year is going to be a good one to watch. I feel like that. There's actually very nice, strong drivers for next year, and the fact that teams have more than 2 drivers per car per team actually creates a little bit. And you have many rookies, and I have to mention Christian Lundgaard. It was his rookie season and he did an amazing season. So yeah, you got Pato Award. We will have Colton Herta probably apart from all of the talks that we've been having.
Yeah, which is when you look at all the talk of Colton and first half of the season, he was flying. But he only finished 10th.
Yeah,
in the season. When you look at, and then like you're saying, experience. Look at P3, the old man Scotty Dixon.
Yeah,
they know it's not about winning races; it's about finishing every race. And just bad weekend is, as long as you get points, it's not a bad weekend. So I think next year is going to be, well, any of the top 10 could win it. Well, probably top 12.
Yeah.
Are all legit championship potentials.
Yeah, completely. I think it's going to be a very good season next year. So yeah. So talking about Mr. Colton Herta, it brings us to the hot topic of the past, I feel like 2 weeks. We kind of touched a little bit about it last week, but now I think we could talk a little bit more in depth about it, which is the super license system that we have in Formula One right now. I'm going to warn you, I have strong views on this. Because
let's go.
It seems to be a mess, to be honest. It seems to be just a mess and a system not made for what it was said it was going to be, which was just to keep the level of driving in Formula One and supposedly preventing drivers like Max Verstappen to come into F1 so young.
But it was because of Max, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was started by Max. But I feel like the only thing that they achieved by it, and I feel that was their real intention, was to just basically you have to go through F3 and F2 to go into Formula One. Basically funnel all of the drivers that really want to go into Formula One to go through that route and spend the money there and earn money for the FIA and that's the only
strengthen
way to get
their series.
Yeah, and I actually don't think that that's right in the whole motorsports sense. So the entirety of motorsports.
But are they thinking of it in the entirety of motorsports, or are they thinking about Formula One? They're thinking about Formula One.
I don't think that they're even thinking about Formula One. I think they're just thinking about money, to be honest. Because if they were really thinking about Formula One, like a guy like Colton Herta is more than capable of driving an F1 car. Let's not kid ourselves. I think nobody thinks that he's not going.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course he can. Yeah, of course he can. No, I think with regards to them having the junior days and like end of season rookie days, I think they should do something like that in Formula One, where whether it becomes mandatory that every team or certain teams run drivers from other series, whether that be IndyCar, WEC, V8s, they have to run.
The problem
drivers.
is this. The biggest problem is this. IndyCar, like a win in IndyCar equates to the same amount of points of super licenses as F3. But even if that, for me, it's not acceptable, because IndyCar is not, we're not going to say that IndyCar is the same level of, you have to have the same level of expertise to drive the cars, because it's just not true, because IndyCar is a much difficult car to race. But then, even worse than that, second, third, and all of that progressively gets even less points than F3. So that's completely crazy. And then you have like the WEC gets you almost no points at all. Not in the hypercar, not in the LMP2s, not in nothing to your super license. Are we saying that Sebastian Buemi, that was a previous Formula 1 driver, guys, Nakajima, all of those guys, that they are not good enough to go into Formula 1? Of course they are. So, and that's actually in a FIA championship. So, yeah, it just seems not adequate for what's supposed to do.
Is it just F1 being elitist and that's what they feel, and tough if you don't like it?
I don't know,
irrespective of the rest of the world.
Mr. Colton Herta going to F1 would be actually good for F1. That's one of the things that's even worse.
Considering how much America has exploded into F1 frenzy at the moment, they obviously don't want it. They don't want an American team, but I think an American driver would be, and there's enough of them. I mean, McLaren have got half of the IndyCar grid on their books, so there's plenty of guys out there, and they're all capable.
Yeah.
Whether they would produce it over a season, I mean, they'd all be quick enough. I'm going to put my neck out. These are my thoughts and my opinions, but they'd be quicker than Latifi.
Yeah, let's not put it that.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want the super license system is a joke because he's in there.
Yeah, basically it's that, because the one thing that they were trying to prevent was drivers that were not mature enough to come into F1 and drivers that were not good enough to drive an F1 driver, and to prevent drivers to just pay their way into Formula 1. The point system doesn't do any of that, because F3 and F2 are so expensive that you have to have money to be there, a lot of money. And contrary to what people think, having a 100% spec series, it's actually way more expensive than have a little bit of competition, because that's the price. You don't have any competition on the prices as well. So when you have F3 with Volkswagen and Mercedes and all that, so you had options. If like I don't know which were the prices, but let's say for example that the Volkswagen engine was a little bit cheaper, you had the option to go racing that way. If you didn't have money for the Mercedes, you could go for a cheaper option. Maybe you had money for that. In the system that we have now, it's that price. And actually Dallara and I don't know who makes the engines, probably Cosworth. I don't know who makes the engines for F3 and F2. But
I'm not sure of that.
I'm not sure, but they can stipulate the price basically. So either you have the money or you don't, and you're screwed. So yeah, and funneling all of your talent through there just gives you less options, and then you get years like this one and last year that, let's say that the crop of the F2 field is not up to par to some of the seasons. I know that we've been spoiled with that year that we had Albon, Norris, and George Russell. It was an amazing year for F2. So yeah, I get that we were spoiled. But yeah, there's drivers out there that are as good, if not better, than those ones that are coming through the FIA route. And some of them there would be very good for the sport. We need an American driver. We really need an American driver in F1 right now. It's exploding so much that when so much of your audience is from a country, it's actually very good to have a driver from that. And we saw that with Max. We had nobody from the Netherlands going to races. We had Max, and now they are everywhere. We see orange everywhere. Army. The orange army goes everywhere. So yeah, and actually Americans are very that way as well. So when they have a American, yeah, they are the best. They support him, and we need
whether they like him or not, they're going to support him.
Yeah, exactly, and we need that. We need them there. We need a American driver, and I feel that the license system is just crap, to be honest. I would rather they just put a cap on the age of the drivers that could get in and leave it like that than doing all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. It could be a good thing. I think it's hurting the sport a little bit right now. And let's not forget. So they want drivers to drive in F3 and F2 for a certain amount of time to be able to earn enough points to go into F1. But let's cast. I did this exercise yesterday. Let's go 10 years back. And let's see who was F1 champion and how many of those went through the ladder. You had Hamilton, that went through the ladder. You did GP2. You had Rosberg. Apart from that, Vettel was straight like from Formula BMW. He was a kid.
BMW, yeah.
We had Max, who did 1 or 2 races in F3 and then went into F1. We had Kimi that did 1 or 2 races in cars and basically went straight from karting to F1.
Formula Renault. Raikkonen did some Formula Renault.
It was like 2 or 3 races in Formula Renault. It was the end of the season of that. So it was crazy. Even then there was that conversation that we had in 2014-15 with Max, because they had to actually Peter Sauer had to campaign for Kimi to get into Formula 1. Jenson Button did almost no racing in cars as well. It was one of those that went through the ladder very quickly as well. So most of our amazing drivers that we've been having, yeah, they've been drivers that went through the rankings or even almost straight from karting. So talent will always speak higher than everything. So I don't know. I feel that, imagine that we had this license system and we lost the opportunity to have all of these great drivers. that were champions in Formula One and wouldn't probably, at least were at the risk of not having their opportunity to come into the sport. That's how I feel, and that's why I feel that the point system really needs a major overhaul, or just get rid of it, to be honest. I think that, yeah, we have to. We don't want to go to the days of paid drivers, pure paid drivers like we had before. But
they need to do something, but it's whether they will actually do something.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
because obviously,
it's
F1, and they know right, and they're the best. So it's their mentality.
Yeah, but the only thing that's giving me a little bit more hope is that we actually have a few teams interested in this. So McLaren have, and Zach Brown has always been very outspoken about this. He is an American, and he loves IndyCar, so maybe he's a little bit partial, but it's his right to be partial. The FIA is partial to their championships as well, so he has all of the right in the world to be partial. Red Bull, I think this with Colton Herta was basically a PR stunt because they really wanted an American driver as well. I don't think that it was just Colton Herta, but I think it was a way to start the conversation, basically, and we all know how political the FIA and Formula One is. So that's the feeling I got from that. So yeah, I really think that we need to broaden our horizons on that part, on everything, to be honest. There's always stuff to improve. So yeah, it seems that in our little podcasting room, it might say hot take was not that hot because we think about the same thing.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah,
and we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the rest of this season. There's still seats available. You never know.
Yeah, and actually one of the news was that Mr. De Vries was seen in Austria going into a meeting with Mr. Helmut Marko. So there's one more possibility there. Let's see if it's going to go anywhere. If that means that Red Bull will release Gasly after all, if that happens, who are Williams going to get? I heard an opinion today by one of the race podcast guys saying that if he was Ricardo, he would be going knocking on Gunther Steiner's office and giving his services to him. I don't know about that. There's been a few rumors that maybe Ricardo is really considering about the test drive at Mercedes. Yeah, so I feel that there will be many surprises until the next race, which will be Singapore in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, let's see how all of that is going to go up, because we don't think that Latifi is going to really keep his seat, do we?
He's going to have a whole load of money to keep it, I think. This too, as it's been proved now, as soon as De Vries did what he did, it's going to say to the management at Williams, we can't do this anymore. We need to it's going to cost them nothing to put a kid in, and they're going to get more performance, which means translates into more points, translates into more money. I think that was the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah.
Unless he goes out and starts winning races and beating Albon for the rest of the season. But let's be honest.
Actually, talking about Albon, there's news about his health, because he went for I don't know how the procedure is called, but he had appendicitis and took his appendix out. And he actually had a few complications. He had a respiratory failure during the the operation and went into intensive care. But last week he was already at home. They sent him home, so he's recovering, and he says that he's going to be ready for Singapore. Let's see, because Singapore is actually a very demanding race for the drivers.
Yeah, very hot.
Very hot, very humid. So, yeah, let's see if Mr. De Vries has an opportunity to show his talents again. Yeah, to be honest, I think the way out for Latifi is already there. But if he comes again and he gets points again, yeah.
It's game over.
I think it's game over. I think it's game over already, but it would be major game over for him. Yeah. So, yeah, let's wait and see if we get more details. We've done a little bit of speculation. So, tell me, what would you do? If you were Ricardo, would you take a spot on a mid to back of the field team for next year, or would you take for example, a test driver? It's not seat that like Mercedes or a team like that.
It's a difficult one. He says he wants to stay in Formula One. He says he wants to be in a competitive car. The only way he's going to be in a competitive car is if he's a test driver at one of the top teams.
But that's not a race seat.
But exactly, it's not a race seat. Many have done it in the past. Have taken and gone in. You can earn a lot of money and be the test boy and run around and get to experience what it's like working with Hamilton, which I'm sure all of them want to know, measure themselves against him in the same car. I think he's at the point now where I think he needs to. I don't think they're going to Williams to go, look, I'm still good, look what I can do. I don't think it's going to work. I think, having seen the recent spate of Raikkonen, Kvyat, and the guys that are going and trying out NASCAR, and Grosjean going to IndyCar, and a lot of the IndyCar, I think he should. Let's be honest, Danny's a happier guy. He's American through and through. When you look at his mojo, is so suited to the lifestyle of American racing that I think if he can just take his head out of I want to be an F1,
he will be a lot happier.
I think there'll be and take away the pressures and the media and just more the restrictions that F1 places on you, what you're not allowed to say, what you're not allowed to do. IndyCar's great for that. They tell it how it is. They call each other names, and yeah, I think if he got if he went knocking, I think there would be quite a few IndyCar teams that he would snap him up. Even if he went with McLaren.
Yeah, but he already turned that down. So yeah, I don't know. I do think that
if it was me, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
but can he let go of F1? That's the problem.
To be honest, if it was me in his situation, I think I would go to IndyCar as well. I feel like he's perfect for IndyCar, the perfect driver for IndyCar. He's very talented. We've spoken about that. I think none of us think that he's not good enough to be fighting for championship or something like that in the right car in Formula One. But with how his McLaren stint went, I think his stock has gone down a lot. Even though everyone says that he's an amazing driver, and everyone says that it was a bad spell in a car that he didn't understand and all that stuff, I don't know. I just feel like his stock is gone down enough that he's never going to fight for a championship from now on.
No, there's a reason they call it the Piranha Club.
Yeah, and
it's as simple as that.
He would be perfect for IndyCar. I think if he went, how old is he now? 35, 34, 35?
I think somewhere around that. He's not in the older ones.
Yeah, but at that age, having had experience in F1, going into IndyCar, and IndyCar in 2024 is going to have hybrid cars, a V6 hybrid, a little bit different from the F1, but it's going to have hybrid cars, and he will have that experience, and going into a series that I think suits him very well in terms of culture, and in terms of how they do racing and the muscling that we're talking about around the track, like the late braking and all that stuff. I think he would be able to do a great career in IndyCar and be one of those drivers that is talked about many decades after he retires. I just feel that he's letting his pride a little bit, talking a little bit louder than his head and what he. I mean, it feels like he must feel like he is still capable of winning championships, or he wouldn't do that. But
I think he is still capable.
Yeah, and I think so.
But sadly, he's never going to be in a top car.
Yeah, because Red Bull, let's be honest, no. McLaren, no. Never again. No. Alpine, and I'm already talking about teams that are down. What you have, Mercedes is going to be difficult. Ferrari, I think he had an opportunity before.
He's had the shot and he turned them down.
Yeah.
They've got enough people lined up ready and they're committed with Carlos and Charles for a long time. So it's only if Carlos goes, fuck this, I'm out of here, then they've got enough people sat there ready to fill seats. So I don't think they're going to call him. They're banking on youth. Alpine, he's burnt his bridges there. AlphaTauri, it's Red Bull, or soon to be another manufacturer. So, no.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like it, because I like Danny Rick, he's a good lad. But I think his F1 days are done, and I think the sooner for all we know, he may have accepted it, and he's just playing the game at the moment with the media. But I think the sooner he accepts it and makes the jump, the better, and it'll be.
The only team that, and it doesn't have a seat available, but the only team that would be an okay move for him, and but it's even that is gambling a lot, would be like Aston, because it's a team that I think the car is garbage this year, but it's going to go way up. If they don't go way up with the amount of money that they are investing, something is very wrong with that team. But
like you say, no seat.
But no seat. I think it would be the only project that it was going to be very good for him. That and McLaren, but McLaren didn't work. So because I feel that those are the two teams that have the most opportunity to get in front in the medium term. Let's talk about medium term. Long term, there's no long term in Formula One, apart from of course Audi. Audi is one of those that it's a little bit different because it's a major manufacturer coming into Formula One, but it's so far away that it's not even part of the conversation. So yeah, I think his days on Formula One have gone away, to be honest, as well. Just bank the 20 or 25 mil that they are talking about and just go to IndyCar. That's what I would do, but I'm not Daniel Ricciardo. So he will
tweet him.
I'm going to tweet him. fuck off
Pedro
to
says-
IndyCar. Pedro says that you better off in IndyCar and dominate that shit. And I'm being truthful. I would love to see that. If he was in IndyCar, I would watch every race next year, to be honest. Just because he's so high stock from Formula One that it would be very interesting to see him there and to see him battling there. Grosjean did increase the interest of F1 crowd there, but I feel like a really top driver like Daniel Rick would be very good for us.
Well, if you look at Grosjean was a lower half of the grid driver when he was in F1. He was still fast and still a good driver, just bottom half of the grid, and he was running at the front top half of IndyCars. So you take a top tier driver, he's going to be top 10, top 5.
Yeah, I just feel that I'll call it the do a Manson kind of deal. Although Manson was a Formula One champion and went there and won. Ricciardo is not a champion, but he's one of those. I think everyone thinks of him that driver would be fighting for a championship if he had a car, and he never had a car to fight for the championship. So that's his kind of stock for me. But yeah, I do agree that his days in F1 are over, and that's it for him. And the sooner he realizes that or accepts that, he must have realized that by now. He's a very clever guy, so he must have got to that conclusion. He's just trying to hold on and see if he can. But I would hate to see him do a Alonso, just hanging on there and like pray for a seat to be open that he can take. But yeah, there's very few times that happens in Formula One.
No.
And I actually don't remember when was the last time that really happened. Someone getting a race-winning car just by waiting and being on the sidelines. I don't think that's happened. Kimi,
he kept coming back, came back to the Lotus and had race-winning cars, and then came.
Yeah, but
he went Ferrari.
Got out. But the difference there is Kimi got out of Formula One on his own terms. Almost. Yeah. No, you're right, because Ferrari paid him to go fuck himself. I don't remember, just to get Alonso there. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, but Kimi was a world champion by that time. And he exited in the end of 2008, and he was champion in 2007. So it wasn't really the same deal, but yeah, I get where he's coming from. But he actually went off and did NASCAR and did WRC. He had some fun. He didn't do NASCAR, but he did like the truck series. He did
a few truck races.
Yeah, did WRC, and then when he came back because, and everyone wanted him to come back. So he was an F1 champion.
Have you seen the pictures from the last race F1 that Kimi was there, and how happy he is now that he's not in F1? He's smiling and talk about being good at your job but hating it at the same time.
Yeah, and his son won his first race, kart race. So yeah, we might have Kimi on the grids for a time. So his kid seems to want to go on into motorsports. So if he gets his talent from his father, maybe we will see another Raikkonen. So maybe we will see another generation of Raikkonens.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, that would be nice. We will be old men, very old men, doing a podcast. Do a Bump Draft and Pray podcast, and we'll talk like this. Yeah. So, let's stop rambling right now. I feel the conversation is going to places we don't want it to go. So, yeah, it was a nice chat about WEC, about IndyCar, about the pointless license system, and about possible career choices for some drivers. But yeah, we will come back next week. We're actually seeing about trying to get a special episode with a friend of the show. We still don't have the confirmation, but if we don't, we'll have something to talk about, because I guess that we will have some more news on the driver market side. So if nothing else, we'll be here to talk about that and to give you a little bit more content to listen to. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube, if you did, on all of the podcasting apps. Please follow us, like, subscribe, do all of that in all social media. And our handle in social media is at BumpDraftPray in all of them. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Google Podcasts, everywhere. If you have questions for me or for any of my paneling friends and Mr. Earl, please send us an email to bdappodcast@gmail.com. And I've been Pedro Barbosa. My handle is Pedro Barbosa SR. And I've been joined by my friend Earl Goddard at Earl Goddard. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bump, Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.